Atticus, of Al, of Oberon, and many, many other characters. Let's give a big warm welcome to Kevin Hearne. This is probably the better mic. Just to give you a heads up.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thanks for coming. Jen's here. Hi, Jen. Jen McKinley is a New York Times bestselling cozy romance author. The cupcake stuff, library stuff. I mean, stuff we all like, but murder. And so, if you want to read some awesome cozy mysteries, Jen will hook you up with, 20 series or so. So, yeah, they're all great. So, thank you guys so much for coming. I always love coming here, of course. Mom's here. So, I've got cousins and stuff. Yeah, I grew up here, went to Coronado High School and NAU and all that stuff. So, I always like coming back. And usually, though, when I come in, usually October is when things start to cool down. And what the heck? It's not doing that this time. But I'm especially happy because Candle and Crow represents an ending that has been a long time coming. There are seeds of the ending of this that were sown in Hammered way back in book 3 of Iron Druid Chronicles. So, and you don't have to have read the Iron Druid Chronicles to still just appreciate the Ink-and-Sigil series. But for those of you who have been longtime Iron Druid fans, I want to kind of go through what happens at the end and talk just a tiny bit about what I was doing there, because some people were confused. All right. When it comes to Irish stories, they're usually not happy endings. So to expect a happy ending from a truly Irish story was very American of us all. Okay? But at the same time, if you look at what happened, for those of you who know, Atticus got what he wanted, which was to stop being pursued by the gods. Granuaile got what she wanted, which was power. Owen got what he wanted, which was the opportunity to train a new generation of druids. So everybody actually got what they wanted at the end. But it wasn't necessarily the happiest possible way they could get it. And the overall actual sort of theme of the whole thing was all about facing the consequences for your bad decisions. You could run from them for a very long time, as certain political figures have done. But eventually, those consequences are going to catch up with you, and you have to face them, okay? So one particular character that doesn't ever seem to truly face consequences is Leif Helgerson, but give it time. Because Thor had to face his consequences, right? Atticus eventually faced his, etc. It's all about facing the consequences for your actions. That's really what the Iron Druid is all about. Once he starts, basically saying, I'm not going to run anymore, I'm not going to hide, things start to snowball on him. There's more and more things that happen, right? And plus, in Hammered, there were 2 different gods that told Atticus, if you go to Asgard, things will not turn out well for you. If I had made it a completely happy ending, I would have made Jesus a liar. So that would have been bad. So yeah, I mean, I foreshadowed that, a lot of what was happening. But at the same time, I knew that there's more to tell. The Ink-and-Sigil series is more about living with consequences or living with a curse or whatever. If you are living under bad circumstances, whether of your own design or not, how do you get out from under those? How do you become a different person, maybe a better person? How do you change? How do you adapt? So that's really what Ink-and-Sigil is all about. And so you'll see multiple characters dealing with that throughout the series. We have the Crow, Roxanne, right? She is trying to become a completely different person. Al is trying to get out from underneath his twin curses that he's been living under this whole time. We have Atticus, who's dealing with the fallout from what happened to him at the end of the Iron Druid Chronicles, right? So all of that stuff is going on in Ink-and-Sigil, and in Candle and Crow, we finally get everything wrapped up. So all of the druids show up. We also have, a good farewell and resolution for Al, Buck, Nadia, and Gladys, who has seen some shite. So we finally get to see what shite Gladys was waiting around to see, and that was tremendous fun for me to basically develop. And by the way, that character was inspired by this throwaway character in The Princess Beard that I wrote with Delilah S. Dawson. There's a character named Gladys who is a secretary in The Princess Beard who's always away from her desk. And so I took that idea and kind of ran with it and what was going on. You know, Gladys just likes to kind of see things, and she moves around a lot. So I have, in fact, the desire to write a bunch of short stories about Gladys after Candle and Crow, about different stuff, little shenanigans and adventures she goes and gets into. So that'll be my project next year for my newsletter subscribers. For those of you who don't know, I have a newsletter called Words and Birds. There's a free level, which is, hey, it's a great price, I gotta admit. But there's also a paid level where I send you a new Oberon short story every month. And if you signed up tonight, you would have access to all of those. Like you still have access to the 9 I've already written. And then at the end of this year, I'm going to collect them all into print and ebook, and Luke Daniels will record the audiobook for it. So it will be available to everybody, but if you want to, throw me some taco money for writing you a short story every month, then, you could do that as well. And so this year it's all been Oberon's bath time stories. And next year, it'll be Gladys who has seen some shite, seeing more shite. Okay? So I've been doing there's a ton of stuff that I've had come out this year just because of the weird publishing schedules. And then next year, I have almost nothing. So what's happened this year? Well, let's see. We had the paperback release of A Curse of Krakens. That came out in June or July. One of those. It was in the summer. And that finished up the Seven Kenning series for paperback. Then I also had, of course, Candle and Crow come out. I've been doing a short story every month for Oberon, right? And that seems to me at least a lot of stuff. I also had a little novella come out in June called The Hermit Next Door. That is a sci-fi novella, and I think like 2 people here have read it. Something like that. More than 2! Quite a few. Okay, so at least from what I've heard, the people who have read it seem to like it a lot. And that makes me happy because I had a great time writing it. It is different. I was giggling when I wrote it because I'm like, I knew nobody had ever written something this batshit before. and so give it a try. If you would like to see what it's like to, read science fiction for me instead of fantasy, that is a pretty good time. It's about a woman. Oh, Library Journal reviewed it and said that it is a lighthearted romp about grief. And I thought that was so, yeah. What the heck was that possible? Yes, it is. It's possible in The Hermit Next Door, apparently. I just love that review because it was so weird. Apparently grief is a thing that I write about quite a bit throughout all of my series. It's a recurring theme in the Iron Druid Chronicles, Ink-and-Sigil, also the Seven Kennings, and apparently now my novellas. So check that out because it's about a woman who is widowed in eastern Tennessee. Her husband dies in a car crash, just an abrupt thing she couldn't have helped or predicted. She's very sad. Everywhere she goes, everything is a memory of him, so she wants to move out of state. She goes all the way across the country to Oregon. And when they move into their place in Oregon, hey, you guys, there's a seat up here if you want. Right, yeah, I know you want it. I'm going to talk about these guys in a second. They're troublemakers. But when she gets there to this house in Oregon, her neighbor is not from around here. He is from far, far away. So things get really interesting really fast. And please give it a try. It is available in print as a signed and numbered lettered edition or whatever. Somebody's got it here, right? Somebody has it? Yeah. Okay, so it looks like this in print. It's from Subterranean Press. They can order it for you here at the Poison Pen. It will already come signed and numbered, but of course, I can sign it some more. And then there's an ebook version, and there's also an audiobook narrated by Annalise Scott. It's not narrated by Luke Daniels because, again, the protagonist is a woman, and I wanted somebody who could do that accent right, and she did a fantastic job. Like, the reviews for her audiobook performance are outstanding, so if you're an audiobook listener, give that a shot. And enjoy. I hope you guys dig that. The other thing that happened is early this year, Canines and Cocktails came out, and you've got that, right? Okay. So I don't know, what is this, like 4 or 5 books I've had out this year? So Canines and Cocktails is a trilogy of novellas written by me, Delilah S. Dawson, and Chuck Wendig. And it has a theme, dogs and drinks, okay? So mine is called the Chartreuse Chanteuse, which is a lot of fun to say fast. So it is a novella that happens chronologically right after Paper and Blood, like picks up like 2 seconds after Paper and Blood ends, and then takes you into basically the first couple of chapters, time-wise, of Candle and Crow. And it represents, for all of you Iron Druid fans, this novella represents the long-awaited happy ever after for Atticus, Oberon, and Starbuck. Okay? You don't want to miss it. Grab it. It is available, obviously, in print, ebook. Audio is narrated by Luke Daniels. Okay? That's out there now. So then, when you finish that, you run into Atticus and Oberon and all them in Candle and Crow. They are already in their happy ever after. And then all of these stories, these Oberon Bass time stories I'm writing for my newsletter, folks, that all takes place after Candle and Crow. Okay, so there's your chronology updated on what's going on. Thank you for this, by the way. Appreciate it. Thank you. So, yeah, I've been up to a lot of stuff. And, you know, it all just kind of wound up happening so that it all kind of hit the calendar this year. Next year, because of publishing stuff, I have almost nothing coming out. So I'm glad you get to see me this year. You might not get to see me next year. But more stuff is in the works. I can't tell you about it yet. That's right. Oh, crap. I forgot about that. Okay. Thanks, Lee. No, seriously. I have forgotten about it so hard. This is the first time I've even gotten to talk about it. You're talking about the Kickstarter? Yeah. Okay. So there's a Kickstarter going on right now called Unavowed. So if you want to go participate in that. This is all brand new stuff for me. The story is called Sinner's Grave. The character's name is Sinner Fitzgibbons. Her parents were assholes. So she has an interesting issue in a graveyard, and I don't want to say any more than that. But that is coming out well, I don't know when it's actually coming out, but the Kickstarter is going on right now, so you can order it. The cover art for it is awesome, and I think there's over 1,000 backers on it already, and it's getting up there to the $200,000 range in terms of, you know, it's happening. It funded within an hour, so it's happening. The book will get out there. So there's a ton of other fantasy authors in there. It will be all different kinds of stuff. It might be epic, it might be urban, but basically it's an opportunity for you guys to learn about some new writers, and you know, and then this one guy you may have heard of. So I hope you guys will check it out if you want. I think for $10 it gets you the ebook in whatever format you like. So, and then, you know, they have more expensive options after that. They have some that are like truly bizarre, like I didn't know people did this. There is a $1,000 option, which is more than I would pay, but some people do. It's like an edition that's like all leather, and I guess you could pet it. And it will be signed by every author. Like the signatures will be in there for everybody. I think there's like a super hot slip case or something. I don't know. It's just super deluxe. All right. So I was like, what? Nobody would know. There's 6 people who have already bought it. And then there's an even more expensive tier where you get that plus all of the other stuff for $1,300, and a couple of people have already done that too. So I'm like, yeah, you guys want to send me some of the taco money? You got all that? That's great. So anyway, that is out there. The cover art is truly beautiful. So again, it's called Unavowed, and the Kickstarter is going on right now. I think there's like 15, 16 days left or something like that. Yeah, so give that a look, see if you want. If things work out, that Sinner's Grave is going to be part of my new stuff. It's like a sort of introduction to the new world that I've got going on. All right, I think I did it. Everything that I've been working on. Yeah, you have a question? Oh, I was going to tell everybody about you guys beforehand. Yeah.
I was actually, you had mentioned the Coyote Run, and I was wondering, is this early to bring it up? Or?
No, I'll talk about that in a sec, too, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so these two jabronis up here, these guys are the best. They are friends of mine from Colorado. They were in my D&D group. we would go to Dirk's house where he's got the secret room behind the bookcase. There's yeah, right, those exist, right? Dreams come true, folks. And we would sit there. When I went to Taiwan, I came back with this Taiwanese whiskey that won the World Whiskey Award, and we just played D&D a little bit, but mostly we're like, this whiskey's good. And then anyway, they Candle and Crow is dedicated to Dirk, Nick, and Abe. And they show up in the book. You'll know I beat the crap out of them in fiction, and so they filmed their passages where they are getting beat up with sunglasses on. Like, what was the sunglasses thing? They're completely indoors, and they're like reading very dramatically their own, disembowelment. So it was good times. Anyway. If you get a chance to talk to these guys, they're a lot of fun. And they came down here from Colorado to say hi. Somebody else has come here from Seattle, right? Yeah. You all are awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Has anybody else come from out of state? Yeah, where'd you come from? Austin, Texas. Oh, my gosh. It's not, gosh, the weather's almost the same, isn't it?
No, we're freezing. It's only 95.
Oh, my gosh. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. The Coyote Run thing, I should talk about that too. I keep forgetting all this. There's so much stuff that's been happening this year. I keep forgetting about it. So, in January, when things were looking really dire, I was getting nervous about the future, and I wanted to read a story in which fascists got the crap beat out of them. And I didn't really know of many besides Star Wars is a great fascist kicking, series. That's wonderful stuff. But I wanted something a little bit more, here than a galaxy far, far away, right? So, but I didn't see a lot of it around. And I'm like, well, you should be the change you want to see in the world. You should publish some fascist, face-stomping fiction. I didn't want to write it. I already had too many other things going on. I'm like, well, what if I ask somebody else to write it for me, and I'll just publish it, and it'll be great. And so I did that. I started a little imprint called Horned Lark Press, and you could go to it. A horned lark is a really cool prairie bird with feathers that actually look like horns on their head. They're cool as heck. And they're like a keystone species. If you see a horned lark around, then the prairie around there is pretty healthy, So the Horned Lark Press thing, it does publish my novellas, like the Canines and Cocktails and all that stuff. That's published by Horned Lark Press. That's just me self-publishing my stuff. But I'm now going to be publishing other folks. So I'm doing Coyote Run by Lilith St. Crow. Some of you may already know her. She has written over 20 novels. She's a fantasy writer mostly, and I love her work. She's really good with neologisms and just coming up with really interesting phrases and new stuff all the time. So I like reading her and being a little bit envious about her creativity. And she wrote this really badass adventure where Coyote has to go into some of the fascist states. She has to go across the border through a war zone, rescue somebody in a military prison, and get out again. So it's super, super violent and bloody. I freaking loved it. It's just what I wanted to read. I needed it. The cover art is pulpy as heck. And it looks like an old-fashioned pulp magazine cover, right? So it is called, the series is called Amazing Tales of Anti-Fascist Action, like those old-timey things, And I will have different authors write anti-fascist pulp for me, and this is just the first one by Lilith St. Crow. And I hope you guys will give it a pre-order. It's coming out February 25th. It'll be available in print, ebook, and audio. And you can pre-order now directly from Horned Lark Press, but it will eventually be available for pre-order everywhere. If you pre-order from Horned Lark Press, you will get anti-fascist stickers and bookmarks and a postcard. Hey, do we have little kids in here?
Just a couple.
Just a couple? You've got my cousins. Well, crap, I can't corrupt them.
Can we do
All right.
earmuffs?
All right, well.
Can we do earmuffs?
Yeah, I'll okay, there's so at the top there's a fake blurb on I did a limited run of postcards for the Coyote Run cover, and usually where you have a blurb from another author talking about the great thing, I just made up something completely fictional by somebody named P.I. Staker. piss taker. All right. And so it says only Coyote can save us from the couch fuckers. And so that's the thing. So if you pre-order from Hearne Light Press, you'll get one of those postcards that you can then, mail to the uncle you fight with at Thanksgiving. So, okay. So that's what I've been up to this year. Just a little bit of stuff. And I'm super jazzed for you guys to read this. There are some people who have already read the book and they finished it. You have already? Oh my God! And yes, you have. Oh, but see, congratulations! That's awesome. I wish I had that much time to read. I would. People are like, "What would you wish for?" I just want to read all the time. Oh, that's awesome! I'm so glad you liked it that much. So the people who have read it already. They seem to like it, and I'm very, very deeply glad to hear that. And I hope you guys dig it too. I had a blast writing it, and I've got some requests for merchandise already for Lurnog. Do you guys, Lurnog, the Unhallowed? So I'll have to look into that. I wasn't anticipating that, but there you go. You guys got to go? We could talk about merch. Sweet. All right, my cousin's going to hook us up. So I think I've covered all the things that I've been up to and why I'm so happy for this to kind of wrap up. But I want to take questions from y'all because you don't get all that many chances to ask me stuff. But I want you to go away from here with something besides just my signature. And by the way, thanks to everybody who hung out with us over at Cornish Pasty. I had a great time hanging out with you. I'm sorry I couldn't spend more time with everybody, but I did my best to get around and say hello. And that place is pretty awesome. I like it a lot, especially when it's cooler. It'll be great. So do you guys have any questions for me? Yes,
All
sir.
right.
Oksong.
Oh, hold on just a second.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to pass around the microphone.
We'll pass around the microphone. Okay.
So the online people can hear you too.
So what was the genesis for Atticus?
The genesis for Atticus, I needed to have somebody for Oberon to talk to. I started with, I just like dogs and I wanted a talking dog, and I built the whole series just around how I wanted to talk to a dog. I'm not kidding. That's really what happened. That's what I did. I was like, well, I don't want a witch or a wizard because the relationship that they have is like a familiar thing. It's like master-servant, not the vibe I wanted. I wanted a true friend to Oberon the dog. And so I thought, well, a druid would be cool, but why would a druid be hanging out in Arizona? And I'm like, all right, time to do some research. And then I found out that there are 3 different ways in Irish mythology that you can live forever. And I was like, well, thanks, Irish folks. That was convenient. So now I know why the ancient druid is still alive. Good. Now, why is he in Arizona? That was tougher. I had to go into look at Irish mythology, and I read about this sword called Fragara that was given to Conn of the 100 Battles in the 1st century by the Tuatha De Danann, but then there's no record of him ever giving it back. And I was like, aha, that's because my guy stole it. And that is why he stole it, and the Tuatha De Danann are after him, and that's why he's in hiding, and that's why we haven't really heard about him in all this time for 2,000 years. It all just fell into place, and I was like, cool, now I could talk to my dog. So, there you go. That's where all of that stuff came from. Everything else just built off that. The dog started it all. Yeah.
Okay, first, you're actually the reason why we ended up with a Boston Terrier, because my son is obsessed with Oberon and Starbucks. So
yes.
Jasper wanted me to make sure I told you.
Hi, Jasper.
Oh, there you go, buddy. And then what made you decide with the belief system in the Iron Druid? Because I really love how all the gods are real and powered by belief, and that goes further into Candle and Crow with some of the characters that we meet in there. So what made you kind of
Well, part of that is it was clear that I was going to need to make the Irish pantheon, a real thing. And once that was going to be a condition of the world building, I had to ask myself, well, if they are real, why aren't all the others real? And then I thought the answer would be cool if they are. They're all real. Our belief makes them real. And it's just that your belief in deity X does not cancel out the belief of somebody else believing in deity Y, right? So it actually became a lot more fun. It also made it absolutely necessary to be first person, because if you're trying to do a third person omniscient, then you're always getting into which gods are doing what. But if I keep it first person, then we only deal with the gods that my character interacts with, right? So it was a structural necessity to do it that way. Plus, just a lot more fun. I get to have fun with his voice. So, did I answer your question okay? Okay, cool. Sometimes I ramble and I worry that I don't answer the question. This was a strategy my students figured out. They're like, let's ask Mr. Hearne a question and see what happens. Yeah, yes, sir.
You mentioned, and you know, I know it's early for this, but you mentioned some of the new work that's coming out. Is there anything you can tell us about it at all, or is it just kind of it's still under works?
It is contemporary fantasy, and it's absolutely nothing to do with the Iron Druid stuff or anything else. Again, if you want to see a look at it, then the Unavowed Sinner's Grave is the first look at that new world. So, but yeah, I can't say anything else yet. Sorry. When I can say stuff, I will. I totally will. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Oh, we got it over here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
I have kind of a weird question.
Sorry.
So you're such a nice person, and some of the stuff you write is really dark. So what kind of alchemy do you use to get the dark stuff out of you onto the page and remain such a nice person?
Oh, the dark stuff comes from heavy metal. So what I do is I listen to heavy metal, and it's all like blah, blah, death, blah. And I'm like, well, that's I feel like mushrooms, and I'm going to just write dark mushroom stuff right now. So yeah, it really does come from, like, I have to get in this sort of aggressive headspace, which is not a lot of fun sometimes, and I don't naturally go there. So yeah, I use music to kind of get me there, with like Norwegian death metal. Ooh. When I wrote the last part of Hammered, there's like that big battle in Asgard. I listened to Twilight of the Thunder God by Amon Amarth on repeat 187 times to get that done. Yeah. I was like, well, what other song am I going to get about the death of Thor that's going to be better than this? So yeah, if you guys want to listen to some nice, fun kill Thor music, very light and uplifting, Twilight of the Thunder God is what you want. Look it up tonight and rock out in the car. Yeah. Thank you.
I really loved the Iron Druid series, and I was happy and sad to see that Canines and Cocktails wraps up Atticus's story.
Yeah.
Is the world going to stick around in your writing? Because the interplay and on the Irish side of it and all is just so cool.
Yeah.
It's so rare.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that I really liked about it, too, about doing the whole series, is that not a lot of folks write about Irish paganism. And when they do, they usually write about the same few gods. You'll get a little bit about Morgan, you'll get a little about Breed, and then maybe Cernunnos, but that really wasn't the Irish. That was the continent. So that's why I was kind of like, this is fun, because nobody else is really doing it, and let's have some of that out there. Also, nobody was really writing about stuff set in Arizona. It's always New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, all cool towns, but man, people are elsewhere. They live elsewhere. So this is where are we at now? Is it the 5th, 6th largest metro area in the States? It's a big place, and it deserves to be. People deserve to read about it. So, wait, I think I strayed. Where was the question again? It happens. Oh, it'll continue on in shorter works. So I will continue to write novellas when the fancy strikes me. And like I was saying, I am writing a short story every single month in my newsletter for folks who subscribe. And then at the end of the year, I just make them available for folks to buy individual, as a collection. Okay? That's what I'm going to do there. Yeah. Back here, I think. And then we have another one back there. Yeah.
Talking about continuing, love the Seven Kennings.
Thanks.
What more? I mean, I was so crazed waiting for the third to come out. There has to be more.
I would love to write more. It's a thing where, more folks got to read it and demand it, and then I'm sure the publisher would let me. It's doing fine. It's just not like the thing where they're like, okay, write more, because that's kind of what they did with the Iron Druid stuff. They're like, keep going. And so I need that kind of enthusiasm and groundswell for the Seven Kennings to be able to write more of it. And again, it's doing fine, and they're happy, and I'm happy. And I feel that I won't do any more epic fantasy, because what am I going to do after that? That was 22 different first-person points of view. I'm not going to write 23. to one up myself. But yeah, that was a mountain that I wanted to climb. It was a really different structure that nobody had done before, and I wanted to do something to contribute to the genre. And now I have done that, so I don't feel the need to keep on going there. I would love to do maybe some novellas or shorter stuff, maybe a standalone in the world, but I don't anticipate doing a full-on epic trilogy again. So that might not be the most awesome answer for you, but that's where it stands. Yeah. But thank you for reading it, because that is the series of my heart. That's the stuff that I always wanted to write. That was it's my baby. So somebody else we had, yeah.
Got one here and one back behind us.
Sounds good.
So are you going to be able to write any short stories about Orla's puppies with the new Grove?
Orla's puppies. Okay, so they get an appearance in Canines and Cocktails, don't they? I think so. So when you read that, yeah, I made sure everybody gets taken care of. So yes, they show up in the Chartreuse Chanteuse. We get, first of all, they were never named before. I named them all in how they paired up with the kids and all that kind of stuff. So you get to see that. If down the road I want to do something with them, that basically the foundation has been laid for me to write about them down the road. I also might want to do something with Owen and Slow-Mo again, because I just think they're fun. So if you guys, by the way, if you haven't read the novella First Dangle, that is an adventure with just Owen and Slow-Mo. They go to Austin. They go to Austin. And so if you want to check that out, that's a lot of fun. I just like the idea of a murder sloth. It's so much fun for me to write that. So you never expect it. And then we have, the next person, yes.
Sorry, my question is about your writing process.
Okay.
I was just curious, do you keep a journal? Do you write with a pen? Just curious.
Sometimes I write with the pen. Like I'll get a new ink and I'm like, woo, look at how fancy. And I'll write for a little bit. I do occasionally, I like to switch up process sometimes, but if I get stuck looking at a computer screen, I can write with a pen. I also have some old-fashioned typewriters, clackety-clack, and that's writing that way. I wrote a whole short story, like in Besieged, there's a story called The Boogeyman of Bora Bog. I wrote that entirely on an old-fashioned typewriter first, and my editor edited it with a red pen, like handwriting on my copy and stuff like that, and then we auctioned it off for charity. So that was a lot of fun for both of us to do something super old school like that. And that process also, it's really different when you're typing on a typewriter, because you can't just easily delete, with the backspace the way you do. You have to really compose your sentences differently in your head before you commit. And so that I found that fascinating, honestly. But yeah, it's slower. So then I as far as what my process is, it varies a lot. I don't. For a while, I was writing in the mornings all the time, and lately I've been writing late at night, like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., and then I start going. I don't know why, but when I figure out what's working, I do that until it doesn't work, and then I try something else, So, yeah, you always have to keep goosing yourself to do what works so you get to the end. Yes, sir.
Just wondering, besides Chuck and Delilah, who else would you love to collaborate with on, say, some novellas?
Stephen Blackmore. How many of you have read Stephen Blackmore? A few of you here and there. Okay. So he writes an urban fantasy series called the Eric Carter series. It's about a necromancer in L.A., not as in Sauron, who wants to dominate the world, more as in, I see dead people and it freaks me out and I'm severely damaged by it. That kind of necromancer. He's got issues. He's kind of a jerk. He also knows that. But the dry humor that comes out of it, I laugh out loud when I read his stuff because of the dry humor. And that's a 9-book series that you guys can get into and enjoy the heck out of. It's honestly, it is my favorite urban fantasy series. So, yeah, I would read that. And I'm publishing a novella by Stephen Blackmore and Eric Carter novella called Bad Reputation. Hornlark Press will be doing it. I just signed him under contract a couple of weeks ago. So he's turning it into me in March. So there you go. I would love to work with Stephen Blackmore. I'm sure there are others, but I'm just spacing it right now. But there you go. There's somebody to go look up and see if you like his work. First book is called Dead Things. Yeah. All right. Did I wear you out? Oh, we got another one from Nick.
Nick, trouble.
By the way, like Nick, I'm over there at Cornish Pasty, and I sit down to Nick, and he's like, "Let me talk to you about butter," and he's like, "My friend Morton, he made some orange butter the other day," just whispering butter secrets to me. So that's what our relationship is like.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah. No, but he has a ceilidh at his house every year in March. So there's Irish soda bread and homemade butter and stuff like that. So I'm kind of joking about the butter thing. I'm just, but yeah, it's always a good time. So what's your question?
So you mentioned your process in terms of using the Norwegian death metal and all that in terms of inspiration. I was interested in some of your other music interests and what you like for certain things or just what you like in general.
Okay.
Like just music interests and how it relates to your writing.
Usually I have playlists of instrumental, math rock, or progressive metal. So my favorite playlist that I've written to for years now is by a band out of Dallas called Polyphia, Polyphia. I've got a 3 or 4 hour playlist of all their stuff. So I listen to them quite a bit while I write because there's no lyrics whatsoever, and it's not going to interrupt word flow in my head. Another band that's kind of recent, they only have a couple of albums out, but I've got a playlist for them too. It's called Glass Beams. They wear glass bead masks. They look cool as heck. I want to do that for Halloween. I want a glass bead mask, and I'm just going to go for it. Also, I realized that it's a glass bead mask would not be nearly as suffocating as other masks would be, but it would completely defy facial recognition algorithms, which is important when you're anti-fascist. So there you go. Glass Beams is a good one to look up. Polyphia is a good one. Scale the Summit is another really good instrumental band, and they have one of those guys, with a 12-string bass. He's you're like, how? You're never going to use all those strings. He's like, watch me. So yeah. It's a good band. Check it out. Scale the Summit. They have several albums out, too, so I've got about a 3 hour playlist of them, too. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I was wondering, during your process of writing the Iron Druid Chronicles, were there any characters, gods or otherwise, that you wanted to include but never made it to print?
Oh, that's a good question. Mostly it was stuff like if I wanted to get into, anytime I was going to write about some either mythological tradition or active religious tradition, I wanted to make sure that I could talk to somebody who was an active participant in that or an expert, in that faith before doing it. So I didn't always have access to stuff. There was a lot of stuff, for example, from the Yoruba nations, the Orishas, that I would have loved to get into more. Like Shango makes a very brief appearance in Tricked. And I would have loved to do more about them, but the problem is there's not a lot of really good source material that you can find about them because, hey, colonialism. So you can't find the good primary sources that you want, and I also didn't have access to somebody who's a practicing, member of the faith or an expert on it. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to screw it up, so I'm just going to not write about it because I'd rather not, do something offensive or inadvertently hurt somebody. So yeah, when I did Coyote, for example, I made sure that I was talking to folks from the Navajo Nation, and then I also had the primary source material I was reading was all basically transcribed audio from an interview done directly with a Navajo healer person, So that's what I did there. Even this, I had to wait for the proper time of year to talk about Coyote because they only talk about Coyote for a certain time of the year. So that took a little while because the first time I asked her about it, she's like, "I gotta go," and I was like, so she wouldn't talk about it at all. But then when it was time, she said, "Hey, Mr. Hearne, a few months back you asked me about Coyote. I could talk about that now. What's up?" So then she got me in touch with her grandparents and stuff like that. So that was a really cool conversation, and that's where all that stuff came from. So yeah, you bet.
Kevin, quick question for you in terms of endings. So Curse of Krakens was your last you finished up your Seven Kenning series. You've just finished up your Al McClavish series, and you finished kind of Atticus' story in Canines and Cocktails.
Yeah.
How does that feel to kind of end things, and is it refreshing to start something new, a new beginning, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I like happy ever afters because I'm an American too. So, I want to get there and feel those warm and fuzzy things. And so I've been delighted to be able to wrap up stuff that I've been working on for so long and give some closure to folks. And of course, the closure being, of course, they have new adventures, and it's not like their lives cease to have all conflict or anything like that. But you get them to a place where at least things have an optimistic road ahead of them instead of doom. So I love that feeling for them and for readers and for myself. So yeah, it's been very satisfying to do all of that stuff, and then of course I'm excited about new stuff as well. So yeah, good times. Thank you, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Other questions? All right.
Yeah. Got this lady back here.
We're going to pass it to her, and then you can have your question, sir.
So I know you're a comic book fan as well.
Yeah.
And, other authors are doing this, but do you see any future where you might come up with graphic novel representations of your other...
Oh, okay. So the question's about graphic novel adaptations of Iron Druid? Mm-hmm. It happened briefly, but it didn't get finished. The company that did it went tits up financially and never finished the work. But they did 2 issues, and I knew it was going to happen, honestly. I knew it was, but I was like, no, I'm just going to get 2 cool issues of art. And that's what I wanted, and I got it. So, because they did really cool representations of they were adapting Hounded. And in the second issue, it's Atticus telling the story of how he got came to possess Fragara in that old 1st century battle. And so they did period specific accurate armor and everything. It was so cool looking. Like the art was really great. I loved it. And then the Morrigan of course came in, and like, you're gonna die and I'm naked. And so that was fun. So there was really cool the first 2 issues, and I'm sorry, they were planning to do 10 and adapt the whole novel, and they never got around to it, and they probably never will, of course, because they went bankrupt. So yeah, sorry about that. But speaking of comics, the best comic in Arizona, Best of Phoenix, 3 years in a row, is my cousin's comic book shop, Ash Avenue Comics in Tempe, and that is the original. That's the original spot of Third Eye Books and Herbs. So, because if you read in the back of Hounded, it says that's my cousin's comic book shop. So, if you guys want to go down to Ash Avenue Comics, they have an amazing selection of graphic novels, the best in the state, if not multiple states. It's seriously good, and Drew will hook you up with something you like. I just went down there today with Mom, and I got a new series called World Tree, and I'm digging it so far. So, awesome. Yes, sir. Oh, you got it.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, you got the microphone,
Yeah,
so
I
you
got
win.
So you were an English teacher for years, and influenced by literature across the board. What do you think was the biggest influence on you as a writer in terms of literature that you've read, across the centuries?
Well, there's a 2-pronged thing. The thing that made me want to write was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey, and it informed my approach to characters and building them out. Because if you've only seen the movie, that it's a brilliant movie in its own, but it's a different medium. The book is told from the point of view of Chief Bromden, and he is mentally ill at the beginning, and he gradually gets better throughout the book. As he does so, his language changes. So his sentence structure improves. He doesn't go off on as many tangents. Just things gradually improve as he goes. And it illuminated to me the idea that your ability to speak and to write and all of that other kind of stuff is really indicative a lot of times of your mental health. Hey, you know what? We've got examples on the news today of people who have trouble sticking to a topic and wandering off all over the place and so on and so forth. So yeah, that is something that I learned from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that made me want to be a writer and to write in first person. But in terms of what is the actual sort of origins of how did I get Atticus and Oberon besides wanting to have a dog? There's a series by Alan Dean Foster, the Pip and Flink series, that is about a redheaded lad who gets in trouble with his animal companion. So there you go. And then also Spellsinger. Yes. There's a bunch of talking animals in there. Come on, I mean this is my source material. Right? That's where it came. Alan Dean Foster wrote both sci-fi and fantasy. I still, when I read him today, I come across new words. And he's an Arizona writer, by the way. He lives in Prescott. And I got to meet him at Phoenix Comic-Con a few years back. And that was like one of those, please don't make me accidentally spit on him because I'm so excited kind of things. And then they asked me to write an introduction for one of his books because I was such a fan and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of a geek out moment for me. So, yep, super fan. Super fan. All right, over here. Yes, sir.
So now it's a two-parter question because of what you said before.
Okay.
So first, is the that limited edition 2 issues of Hounded, is that available anywhere?
It's available for a limited time from me. No, I have a bunch of copies, so.
Cool. Where?
Raffle.
Horned Lark?
I've never really thought about trying to get rid of them. There's just stacked up in my closet. I didn't really think there would be a lot of, demand for here's 2 issues of a thing that'll never get finished, because we've heard that, people are upset when people don't finish series. So, I didn't want to lump myself in with that, So I'm not naming names. All right, what was your other question?
The other question was on the comics issue, though, is that if you could choose a series of any time to write on, what would it be?
Oh, writing comics.
Yeah.
I would never wanna.
No?
No, I never. No, it. My friend Delilah S. Dawson, she's a good buddy that I've written books with. She spent a year writing comics, and at the end of it, she was like, "That was not worth it at all." So there's so many emails going back and forth between editors and artists and everything else. She's like, "It's so much work for so little compensation. It's not worth it at all." And so I was like, "Okay, I'll just keep writing books. I'll read the comics and feel sad that they're not getting compensated better. But I don't want to write them myself because it sounds like an incredible grind." And they're truly doing it for the love. They're not doing it for a lot of money. So, yes, sir.
Cordwainer Smith. Are you familiar?
I'm sorry?
Cordwainer Smith.
No, I'm not familiar. I'm sorry.
Look up in Australia. You'll love it.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So from a teacher.
Yeah.
Perspective. Well, actually, no, I won't ask that question because I already know the perspective on that one. Would you ever consider going back into the classroom? And then what's your best advice for middle school students?
Ooh, for middle school students, I only taught high school for a reason. Yeah, that's a rough one. In terms of would I ever go back, what I like to do, I do like to teach writing workshops for a while. Because I get to go in and do a couple of lectures and have fun being a teacher and helping people progress, but I don't have to take attendance, and I don't have to go to faculty meetings, and I don't have to have 504 meetings or all the other little meetings that you have to have as a teacher. I also don't have to grade essays, and there's a lot about that. So I love doing writing conferences, but I don't know that I would want to be back in the classroom full time because so much of the job, as you know, is not actually teaching. And so I would like to, and teachers are being asked to do more and more of stuff that isn't teaching for just because you love the kids. I was like, yeah, I love the kids, but maybe you could pay me too. So, yeah. Because I was here I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing it here in Arizona, but when they had the big 2008, the economy went and the legislature decided, we're just going to freeze pay for 3 years. So inflation goes up. Teachers' pay is frozen, and so you effectually are getting a decrease in pay every year because of the fact, that sucked a lot. And it always seems to be the solution is let's make teachers pay for our financial problems instead. Yeah, so I don't dig that. So I don't want to go back. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So the opportunity to make other avenue streams of capital. Have you had any of the books licensed?
Yeah.
Or series
Yeah.
been picked up?
Yeah. Warner Brothers got an option on the Iron Druid series. And they were this close. They had sold it to TNT, and TNT was about to develop it, and then there was some big merger, and then when that merger happened, venture capitalists coming in and screwing everything. So the hedge fund guys, whatever, they're like, all right, we've merged. Now stop everything you were doing. Like, it wasn't just my project that got axed. It was like everything in development was just like toast. So a lot of folks were in different stages of development at that time, and all of it got scrapped. And since then, nobody has picked it up again. So it's available if you happen to know somebody with giant bags of money who wants to pay for the rights to develop it in TV or film. I'm happy to sell it to them. So, but yeah, I'm not holding my breath, because stuff like that is really, getting struck by lightning twice kind of stuff, Back here, we got a question? Yeah.
As somebody who used to write, honestly, a lot of fan fiction, but loves to write just kind of in general, what advice do you have just for kind of like following that and like, I guess, getting something out of it and stuff like that?
Okay, so I'm guessing you were vaguely in your 20s. Yeah. Cool. All right. So I started writing when I was vaguely in my 20s, and I did not get published until I was 39. So you've got time. You know what I'm saying? Don't think that if you don't get published this year, it ain't going to happen for you. I failed miserably for many, many years. And then, but I can't second guess any of it because it kind of turned out okay in the end, right? So I had to have a lot of life experience. I had to fail a lot. I had a problem because I thought I'm an English teacher, so I know how to write. I knew how to write essays, not how to write a novel, right? So I could have benefited perhaps from taking some of these writing conferences that I thought I was too good for. My ego really got in front of me right there, and messed me up. I could have benefited from some more training, specifically in fiction, and I wish I had done that because maybe I would have gotten published earlier. I don't know. So, but then what happened was I wrote 2 novels that didn't get published and will never be published. But the 3rd novel I wrote was Hounded. So I had to completely write 2 books, and they were just, it's not wasted time because I learned what not to do. I had a ton of cliches in there, a lot of tropes that were just overdone, just crutches all over the place to get it finished. And they were absolutely terrible. But I learned what not to do as a result. And then when I wrote Hounded, it was completely, again, for my own entertainment. And I thought that nobody would want to buy it. Like when I finished it, I thought I wasn't even going to send it out to an agent because I thought nobody's going to want to read about a druid and his talking dog and have all these geek outs about mythology and Shakespeare quote duels and stuff. Right. Who would want that? And my wife was like, no, you were going to send it to an agent because that's better than most stuff out there. And I just do whatever she says anyway. So she was right. I was wrong. And I thank goodness for Kimberly because, I would not have sent it to an agent otherwise. And there you go. So I don't know if that answered your question. Just keep going. Please keep going and learn from the process of doing it because you will get better. Think of your first stories, or all your fan fiction. That was training wheels. Now you know how to ride a bike. You're going to get better at it. You're going to keep training. Yeah.
Hello. I have a couple of questions about the Iron Druid novels. One, how did you develop the system of druidry, the bindings, the way that they work, the magic system? And 2, how much could a person modify their body without depending on constant energy flow? Like, could I use bindings to build muscle more with a workout, for example, and maintain that?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Nobody's gone there. No, but I mean, no. Atticus usually their result or their solution is that I'm temporarily increasing my strength thanks to the binding that I have from Gaia, but it's no permanent change to their physiognomy. They can work on that themselves. They can get their membership at LA Fitness or whatever, and build up stuff after a while. So. But yeah, there's always a boost to their natural strength and speed that's coming from Gaia, and they don't need necessarily to have the big blue shirt guy. What was The dude, remember the blue shirt dude from Free Guy? That's my favorite movie, you guys. That's like my comfort movie. I love Free Guy so much. Anyway, the other part of the question was, I forgot.
Where did
the system come from?
The bindings, druidry, the magic system. I just found it really interesting.
Well, almost, if you think about it, every magic system out there is binding and unbinding. But they just use a different way of accomplishing that. Almost all rituals are a way of binding, whether it's a spirit's attention or some other being's attention to you or to an object or whatever. There's maybe sacrifices involved. All of these are parts of bindings. And so the most fundamental thing you can do, as I thought, as a druid, would have the earth say, look, binding and unbinding is the core thing of what molecules do. You know, when you share electrons, whatever. All of that stuff is happening all the time. So it's happening in our bodies constantly. You know, proteins coming in and doing their thing. So, I thought it was the most basic form of what is happening in nature. And it's a natural magic system. So there you go. Let's keep it simple. That's what druids do. Bind and unbind. There you go. Hope that worked.
So I'm going to do a quick stall question while
Sure.
Jake takes a look at our online questions
to
see if there's anybody who has a question for you online.
Hello, online people. I didn't see you there.
So my question is, which classic book series, like or author, do you absolutely hated teaching when you had to teach?
Okay, can I cheat? I hated
You
it so
may.
much I refused to teach it.
That's okay.
Charles Dickens. Fuck that guy. No, like look into who he was as a person. He was a huge dick. He was not a nice man. He was downright evil. So yeah, there's a graphic novel. I can't talk about it yet very much, but there's a graphic novel coming out soon, written by somebody else about Charles Dickens, and the person writing it has been telling me all the stuff they've been learning about, and like, I'm going to kill him over and over again. I hate this guy so much, I'm going to kill him a lot. And so, so I was told to teach A Tale of Two Cities, which is really fun if you do the Spoonerism version. But I would refuse to teach it. So, and I never finished Great Expectations. I had expectations of finishing it, and it was not great. So I stopped, and I will never, ever finish a Dickens book. And now that I know more about who he was as a person, I really don't want to finish his stuff. So there you go. Sorry about the cheating on the question there. Yeah.
All right. So.
Yep. You got a question from online?
So actually, yes.
Yeah.
So what? So I apologize. All of a sudden, I'm blanking on the question. The question. Well, first of all, greetings from Northeast Ohio. That we ended up having one of our viewers.
Okay.
Where's a place that you would like to travel and do a signing at that you haven't had the opportunity to do so?
Iceland. I really would like to go to Iceland when the volcanoes are being nice. I would love to. There's so much about that. I wrote a little bit about it, of course, in the Iron Druid series. I would love to visit there. I'd love to go back to Scotland because that was wonderful. And then I would love to also visit some bits of Europe that I haven't been to yet. Spain and Portugal. But I don't know that anybody there reads me, so I'm not sure I'm going to be doing a signing there anytime soon. But I know I do have some Icelandic readers, so that'd be great.
Any other questions? Or are these chairs getting suddenly uncomfortable?
Are you going to ask
All
me
right.
what kind of butter I like?
Well,
The
now I
orange
am.
one.
The orange one. I was interested in where you get your inspiration for writing your villains, and especially you have several villains that are relatable villains, not just like it's Darth Vader or whatever.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I often, whenever I do see a cartoonish villain that's like, I want power, I'm just like, really? That's all you want? I don't believe them as, I think a lot of villains don't really believe that they're villains. They don't believe that they're the bad guys. And so you need to have somebody who's maybe they will have a sense of humor. They will be occasionally funny. Like Melishev Lomet in the Seven Kennings, huge jerk, but sometimes incredibly funny. Like he has some really good lines. that kind of made me laugh. But I'm like, yeah, that's okay. You know, villains can be funny too, because they do not, again, think of themselves as the villain. They think that they're the hero. So Bamet Sinesh, also a very dark fella, but occasionally, I mean, he likes to torture people, but at the same time, he would occasionally have some very interesting observations about human nature that were also a little bit humorous. So, yeah, I think that the villains have to be complex to be interesting, because if they are very one-dimensional, I don't believe them, and it messes up with my suspension of disbelief, because I think, yeah, people are more complex than that. Awesome question.
So I think most of the questions now should probably be taken one-on-one, because these chairs are incredibly uncomfortable after an hour.
Yeah.
They're called suddenly comfort. They're called sudden comfort because after an hour you discover they're suddenly not comfortable.
Yes. Well, let me say one thing. You guys, I will sign all the things. So, like, if you are feeling like any fear about asking me to sign 20 books, I don't have that fear. Be fearless. Just ask me to sign everything, because, you know, I don't come around here all the time. Yeah, go buy more. If you want me to sign other people's books, I'll sign it. You got a cool forehead? I'll sign it. I'll sign anything. And but I really appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah.
I love you for reading, obviously, and coming out to see me, and I can't wait to see you up here in person and whatever Pat says.
Exactly. So first of all, Kevin, would you be willing to? Random House sent me a hat, and we just finished talking about villains.
What do you want me to do with this?
Well, I don't know if you just want to put it on real briefly for a opportunity. You can put it over your hat. That's okay. There we go. All right. So Random House sent us a giveaway tonight, and so Kevin's a little bit shady. We also have, because it's spooky season, Mariana Enriquez's A Sunny Place for Shady People, which is a collection of short stories in the horror vein. So right now, Kevin, we have tickets 1 through 32, and the person who you call will win a hat worn by Kevin Hearne. And see how I worked that in there? Yeah, exactly. And a copy of A Sunny Place for Shady People.
Number 17.
Lucky number 17. You got to open up your book, take a look.
Who's got 17? You just won, Shady Person.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Woo! All right.
Congratulations, Danny. All right.
Your hat and your book, sir.
That's awesome.
The other thing that we'd like to ask is, there's a lot of chairs and there's a lot of you. Unfortunately, putting them on my left, your right, is the chairs tend to fall down. So if you don't mind picking up your chair, putting it onto the right-hand side, we can go ahead and clear that line. Go ahead and get in line according to your number associated with that, and thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I need water so bad. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I would love that.